Hi everyone! These are my audience members and they will be sitting in for my presentation. In 1980, research was done to try and combat heart arrhythmias, a condition in which the heart beats in an abnormal rhythm. The drug lorcainide was developed with the intention of prescribing it to patients who had suffered from a previous heart attack. A clinical trial was then issued and tried with 100 people. Out of those 100, 50 were given the drug lorcainide and the rest were given the sugar pill. 10 out of the 50 who received lorcainide died, in comparison to only 1 death out of the 50 who took the placebo pill. This drug was then rightfully discarded as a massive failure and was immediately stopped in development. However, because it did so badly, this trial was never published in medical journals. Fast forward 10 years later, several other companies came up with the same idea to help individuals who suffered from heart arrhythmias. They developed drugs that were almost identical to lorcainide. However, this time, the drugs were introduced and prescribed to a larger population. By the time the cause of death was detected in people who had been prescribed these drugs, over 100,000 Americans had already passed away. You may ask yourself, how did this even happen? Why didn't they catch this before? I'm glad you asked. Medical journals do not want to publish stories like these because of its negative and unflattering data. However, as you can see, it is extremely important for us to be able to have this data published. It very well could have provided an early warning and maybe could have prevented all of those deaths. Sadly, stories like these are still happening around us. Publication bias is still very prevalent. Many doctors today will read medical journals to learn about the drugs they may be prescribing you. Unfortunately, they are being misled. So, let's say your doctor wants to prescribe you a new drug that is out on the market. He or she does their homework and reads everything they can about this drug. And let's say only 7 studies were done on this drug. 6 of the 7 came out as negative and only 1 of the 7 came out as positive. That one positive study is then the only one that will get published, and none of the negative ones will. You can see just how misleading this is to a doctor and how dangerous it can be to you as a patient. Studies show that positive findings are twice as likely to be published than negative findings. Ben Goldacre, a British physician, academic, and science writer, suggests that we force people to publish the trials conducted in all humans, including the older trials, since the FDA Amendment Act only asks that you publish the trials conducted after 2008. He suggests that we need to force publication on all trials done on humans, including the older trials for all drugs in current use. This would allow doctors full access to the information about the drugs they are prescribing and help safeguard us against medicinal misuse. I recommend you watch Dr. Goldacre's TED Talk called What Doctors Don't Know About the Drugs They Prescribe, where he talks about this issue in depth. If you would like to go further and educate yourself more about this, you can read his book entitled Bad Pharma, where he talks about the pharmaceutical industry and its relationship with the medical profession. Now, some might ask if this is a real issue that we need to address now. Let's imagine how horrible it would be if this problem is not fixed. We face a very real possibility that a scenario could happen where a potentially life-changing drug was rushed into the market. Let's say something like cure for cancer. This drug was tested but had severe negative effects time after time. Finally, there was one successful test. This one successful test was then published, but the other tests were discarded. Because of this publication bias, doctors read about this drug and believe this drug could save lives. So this drug is then prescribed widely and even used, though it has significant negative repercussions. History would then repeat itself, and we would have hundreds of thousands of preventable deaths, just like that anti-arrhythmia medicine did in 1980s and 90s. This would be horrible, and the losses would be detrimental to the medical field. However, if this problem is fixed, you can imagine how much it would accelerate scientists' research with medicine. Let's imagine if all data was available to doctors and scientists alike. It would make it easier to find out if the medicine they want to create has already been tried. This would significantly speed up the medicinal production process because of the negative trials would be available. It could even lead to less expensive and more effective forms of medicine. Not to mention, it would save thousands and maybe millions of lives looking forward into the future. But what can we do to help doctors access this information? This massive problem is not hard to fix. Dr. Goldacre, along with his team, is already battling this for us. He has founded a company called All Trials with a trademark of All Trials Registered, All Results Reported. Participation is extremely easy thanks to Dr. Goldacre. By simply opening up your web browser and looking into alltrials.net, you can sign a petition to help make all trials have to be listed, whether they be positive or negative, in a clinical trials registry, making the results available as open data. I have included a link to his website down below, as well as a link to his TED-Talk. This will take you less than 2 minutes to sign this petition, yet help immensely to battle this huge issue. Tell all of your friends and family about it. Let's spread the word. If you feel the need hitting close to home, you can also make a small donation to help Dr. Goldacre and his team win the fight against publication bias. Visit alltrials.net right now to make your voice heard. Together, we have the power to save lives. And here are my audience members back.